All right, now I'm going to put Judge Howard to work again, and he's going to introduce our guest speaker, Judge Barbara Walters. And Judge, if I remember correctly, you spoke to us before. I'm not for sure, but I think it's back in the old days, back at, was it old Shaky's place?
Yep.
It was. Okay, how about that? It's been a while. Okay, didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but I was just checking my memory out.
No, you're exactly right. But you're taking part of my speech.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't mean, don't find me. Okay, Judge, take over.
Okay, Honorable Judge Barbara Lane Walther, 51st District Judicial District Judge. Judge Walther has been the presiding judge of the 51st Judicial District Court of Texas since 1993. 1991 or so, Judge Hart retired.
No, he retired at the end of 1992. I took his place.
Okay, he was retiring. She ran against Bob Post and won that election. She was the first woman and the first Republican to win election to that office, or to the office. Judge Walther earned her law degree from Southern Methodist University, the Edmond School of Law. She earned her BA from the University of Texas and an Associate in Arts degree from Stevens College. 1997, the Girl Scout Council of Texas, in celebration of the 85th anniversary of Girl Scouts. I really need glasses to read this. But selected Judge Walther as one of the 85 Texas Women of Distinction. I said, boy, that does help. She was honored by San Angelo School Foundation as San Angelo Angel and by the Feast of Santa Angela for her courage, spirit, and judgment, and for her championing of children. She is a member of the Community Advisory Board of the Laura W. Bush Institute of Women's Health. Judge Walther is married to Dr. Stephen Walther. She was born and raised in San Angelo, Texas, and is the daughter of Jim and Dorothy Lane. And on a personal note, when I ran for office, Judge Harris, who was JP before me, after I won, it was right after I was sworn in. We were doing something, I don't remember what, probably out at his ranch. But he told me, he says, now, you need to go see Judge Walther. And I said, why is that? And he said, because she's your friend. And she's a friend of the Justices of the Peace. And I said, okay. So over to the courthouse I went, first opportunity I had. Got invited back into the catacombs where they reside back there that you don't see, and was directed to her office. And first thing she did was come out of her chair and she hugged me and she congratulated me for the win. And she said, sit down. And she said, I don't know, she said all these books and things that are in the office. She said, I don't know if you'll ever need them, but if you ever need them, you just come over here and you get after it. You're welcome to anything that I have. That meant an awful lot to me. One time in court, I went to visit, sit in court with, just watching, and she stopped court and said, Judge Howard, do you have something she did? No, but just out of respect, she did that. And then one time in court, back in those days, we had to testify about the deaths. We had to come in and say, yes, I was at the death. Yes, I did order the autopsy. Yes, that autopsy was ordered and we got that. Just kind of menial information as far as the court is concerned. And she just stopped court and said, why are we having this done? Why are we taking up this judge's time for this? And from that time on, we've never been asked. I guess they stipulate to that stuff now. They never ask us to come anymore. Maybe they just don't want us there, but that's okay. We don't have to come, because when you come, you have to sit down at the end of the hall in that little room, and you're by yourself. She had the greatest respect. I want to tell you that this lady is our friend. I can't tell you what I want to tell you because of judicial ethics. Okay, so just trust me. She is your friend. She will do a good job wherever she is. And I sat in 7 hours of the FLDS hearings, And I cannot believe the decorum that was held in that courtroom. And basically it was because they knew you don't jack with Judge.
Wow. Before I get started with what I was going to say, your story. That's the story of all of us. Some of us may have started, our ancestors may have started it before. But we forget sometimes in this country, e pluribus unum, from many one. We need to do a better job of doing that. Republicans have always done that. Somehow we've let somebody else take what we have always been. And so it's a real honor to hear your story. And it was very touching, and it's a story that we should have everybody know about the courage you've shown and the importance that one man's comment made. One man taking the time to go across the street. So I'm honored to have gotten to hear that story. Thank you very much, and I'm very impressed. You were right. I visited y'all when you were at Shakey's. And I don't usually like to admit how old I am. But that was about 22 years ago.
No.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. You all made a decision to get involved in a judicial race. Dick Ockla had a race and you all had worked for him, but I would not have ever been elected. I was the underdog. If it hadn't been for some of these women over here, a lot of people in this room, I would never have been elected. You all made a difference. And I have been honored by that. I've been honored by the fact that you all have stuck with me, that you have supported me, and that you have been my friend. And I'm glad to hear that I've been your friend too. You all know and you understand the importance of being involved in politics. It's so nice to be in this room where politics is not a dirty word, where we all understand that it is being involved and making a difference that will change things, that will improve things. It's one thing to sit at the coffee shop and complain. It's another thing to roll up your sleeves and go to work. And everyone of you does that. You go to work and you make a difference. And so I want to thank you for all the candidates that you all have supported, for all the people you have gotten elected, for all the people you've helped be removed from office. Now, I've been a judicial officer for 27 years. Before I became the district judge, I was honored to be the associate judge, family law master for 5 years. My opponent has been a licensed lawyer for less time than I've been a judicial officer. As a district judge, every day, I see the difference that criminal cases make. I see how it affects the victims, their families, physically, emotionally, financially. There really are no victimless crimes. Every crime hurts someone. I've seen how it changes communities. You know that. When we have something horrific happen, we lock our doors, we change how we do things. It costs our community a lot of money. And it affects the defendants and their families too. Did you know that in 2010, every Texan, man, woman, child, spent $3,000, $3,000 of their tax dollars to run the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the penitentiary. It's not what it costs for the police department, it's not what it costs for the sheriff's department, it's not what it costs for our local jail. That's after they've been convicted and they're incarcerated. Crime costs every one of us every day. Think what we could do if we could take that money and put it for education. So sometimes people, they don't understand why the Court of Criminal Appeals is so important to them, because it's, if they do their job right, if judges do their job right, we are an afterthought. It's only when we mess up that people get involved and think about judges. Every generation faces new challenges. Is there anyone in this room that does not have a cell phone? Does not regularly get on the internet? Some of us have two, plus other iPads, and I mean, you know, it's this next court is going to be faced with making decisions about how private that cell phone is. Whether people can ping off of it and know where you are, whether they can keep track of how many phone calls you've made, who you've texted to, all of that. Things that we think are private, basic fundamental rights that you should have a search warrant to get. Our Constitution, when they drafted, never thought about having this type of written document, but we have special protections to get somebody's writings. We recognize that people's thoughts, their diaries, their personal papers are different, even more protected than your home. This court will make rules, will interpret the Texas Constitution, and tell us if we have rights to privacy. And it's important to remember that we have two competing but at the same time together constitutions. We have the federal Constitution, which the United States Supreme Court is the ultimate authority on that. But Texas has a very strong constitution. We cannot conflict by ignoring something that the feds have said is unconstitutional. But many times in Texas, our rights, our basic fundamental rights, are more protected by the Texas Constitution than by the federal Constitution. And that's important to all of us. This election cycle, 3 judges on a 9-member court are retiring. The vast majority of the cases they hear, 800 of those cases, it's not going to make a difference. Those decisions are 8-0, 9-0 decisions. Somewhere between 80 to 60 decisions a year, or 5-4, 6-3 decisions. The judges that replace the 3 retiring judges will make a difference in those cases. And it will affect our right to privacy, our right to bear arms. You know, people say, well, you can't wave that around. That's a basic right. It was important enough to be the second right listed. We have to make sure that the judges that you send to Austin will make the right decisions. How do you judge what a judge is going to do? You know, I can't stand up here and promise you I'll do this and this and this, because then I might not be able to hear that case. And that would kind of defeat you sending me to Austin. You need to look at the background. You need to examine the record. You need to look at the candidate's literature. Look at their experience. Are they truthful? Do they represent themselves honestly? Tell you exactly where they've been? Do they tell you about their experiences candidly? One of the things that you need to look at and think about with 1/3 of the court retiring, as a trial judge, it's wonderful. I make a decision, I write down my ruling, I go on. I don't have to get anybody to agree with me. If I get overturned, that's how it works. Appellate judges work differently. They have to be able to work with the judges on the court to come to decisions. I mean, you don't do much good to always be over here writing your own opinion and not being able to help draft the majority opinion. Sometimes you have to stand up conscientiously for what you believe, and I may, if I'm elected, write dissenting opinions, pointing out how I think they're wrong. The court will need to develop new leadership within. And that's where I think I am probably uniquely qualified I've had the privilege of being the chair of the judicial section of the state bar, the chair of the Texas Center. I headed up the education committees that educated all the district judges and all the trial judges for over 4 years for this state. I have worked with judges. I know what we need to do. We created a program to have certified judges that have specialty certifications. Lawyers they may be board certified in a certain area. The state bar came to us when I was chair of the curriculum committee, and they said, that's a problem, because how do we certify a judge as being an expert? What if we didn't? You know, that would be bad. It would be a political decision. So we said, well, what can we do? We came up with a certification for judges that's run by judges. We set the standards. We set the curriculum. It's over and above the minimum education we have. I know how to work with people to build consensuses to get things done. The Court of Criminal Appeals is a co-equal with the Supreme Court. And I have some very good friends on that court right now. They have not, in my opinion, worked hard enough to keep the status of the Court of Criminal Appeals as a co-equal. Most people don't even know it exists. And if they do, they think it's an intermediate level. It's important. They need to address problems that are coming up. Our sheriff and our police chief can tell you that we are about to have a major change in how criminal cases are handled because of the Morton case. Because of that, there are now massive amounts of evidence that must be exchanged between the prosecution and the defense. The legislature passed a law to tell us what needed to be done. I think the Court of Criminal Appeals needs to give specific guidelines of what, and they can do that with their rulemaking authority without having a case. Because it's too late in 3 years when the case gets to the Court of Criminal Appeals to say, oh no, you should have done this. Awful lot of cases that are under the water by that time. So I think that's an important thing that I would like to see if I get to go to the Court of Criminal Appeals. I want to tell you that it has been an honor to be your judge, to be returned to that position, to have been elected 6 times. But to have people who know you, who see you every day, to read about what you do, and to have the privilege to continue to serve you is probably the greatest honor I will have. Thank you very much. I'd ask for your support. God bless you.